solving a percent mixture problem using a linear equation. So mixture problems, you're going to be comparing two quantities or trying to understand two quantities, and they're going to tell you a few different things about the quantities, and you have to put it all together and make an equation. So the way I always do these, and this is going to be a strategy that works well for lots of word problems, especially in this homework 5, is to create a table. So for this particular problem, we have Austin has two solutions that contain alcohol and is mixing them with each other. He uses 3 times as much solution A as solution B. 3 times as much solution A as solution B. Solution A is 13% alcohol and solution B is 16% alcohol. How many milliliters of solution B does he use if the resulting mixture has 165 milliliters of pure alcohol? Okay, so solution B is what we're asked to find. But I'm going to make my table. And the two things I'm mixing together, solution A and solution B, are going to be my first 2 rows. And then my overall mixture should always be the last row. So the first column is going to be our amount, just how many milliliters we're using for each thing. And they didn't really tell us much about that, so let's not worry about filling that one in yet. But the second column is going to be the percentage or the concentration. And you always want to write this, though, as a decimal. So instead of 13 for solution A, I'm going to put 0.13. Oh, maybe I should draw some horizontal lines here. And then so for B, 0.16. And they didn't tell us what the mixture is going to be in terms of the percentage, so I'm just going to leave that blank. I may not need to know. Okay, and then finally, this last column is going to be the amount of whatever the percentage is. So in this case, it's the amount of alcohol, amount of just plain pure alcohol. But the main thing to remember is that this column is what you get when you multiply the first 2 across. And they did give us a little bit with this 165 milliliters. That's how much pure alcohol is going to be dissolved in the mixture. So that goes down here. Okay, the only thing I haven't used from this problem is this 3 times as much. 3 times as much of A as B. And that, when they say it that way, it always throws me off. So 3 times as much of A as of B. So that means A, there's going to be more of the solution A, right? So if we let solution B, since that's what we're asked to find, we could let that be our X. So that's the amount of solution B we're using. We're going to use 3 times as much of A. So that would be 3 times X. And then we could fill in, like this would be 3x plus x, that would be 4x, but I don't think that's going to be helpful. So I'm just going to kind of cross the rest of the third row out, because your equation's always going to come from the last column. And we've already got this 165. So in the third row, third column, we've already got that. That's really all we need there. So then to fill in these other 2 boxes so that I can create my equation, I am just going to multiply across. So I'm going to multiply 3x times 0.13. And if you're comfortable with it, you could go ahead and do 3 times 0.13 is 0.39. So this will be 0.39x. So we're just multiplying these 2 together. And when I multiply in my second row, it's going to be 0.16x. And so now the amount of alcohol that is in solution A plus the amount in solution B is going to be equal to the amount in the mixture. So row 1 plus row 2 is equal to row 3. And this is always going to work. If you set up a table like this, your equation is going to come from your third column, and it's always going to be the first 2 rows added together equals the third row. As long as you make sure your mixture is last, then this will work. Okay, so now let's write that out. 0.39x plus 0.16x is equal to 165. And so now if I add these together, they're like terms. 0.39 plus 0.16. I think, what is that? I think it's 0.55 because I've done this problem about 6 times now. 0.55x equals 165. And then dividing both sides by the 0.55. I don't think I can remember what that is. 165 divided by 0.55. I get 300. And x equals 300. What in the heck was x? X was how much of solution B, and we were asked to find, okay, how much of solution B. So there we go. So 300 milliliters of solution B, so that is our final answer. Now you can check this by actually going ahead and figuring out how much there would be of the other ingredient. So solution A would be 3 times 300, so this is 300. 3 times 300 would be 900, and then actually working out what, how many milliliters of alcohol using your percentages. So 0.13 times 900 is 117, and then 0.16 times 300 is 48. And if I add 117 and 48, I get 165. So that helps me feel pretty confident that this is the correct answer. Okay, we're going to do one more, and that is one of the problems that involves money. So they might say it in terms of profit, they might talk about interest, but it's still basically the same sort of thing where you're sort of mixing together two accounts, and you have two different percentages that you're comparing. So here we have Heather invested her savings in 2 investment accounts. The account she invested in Fund A, or the amount, I'm sorry, she invested in Fund A was $8,000 less than the amount she invested in Fund B. Fund A returned a 2% profit, and Fund B returned a 5% profit. How much did she invest in Fund B if the total profit from the two funds together was $1,310? All right, so I'm going to do my table, and I'm going to use Fund A, Fund B for my first 2 rows. And I'll just say total for the third row. And sometimes with these problems, you'll find that the total row isn't terribly helpful. Like in the previous problem, we only really needed kind of this last part of it. So adapt this table to whatever makes sense to you. Okay, so first column is going to be kind of overall amount. So this is the amount of money that is invested in each fund, and then total. And the second column is going to be our percentage, so percent profit. And then the last column is going to be, instead of percent profit, the amount of profit, so actual money, dollars profit. All right, so Fund A, it said $8,000 less than the amount invested in B. Let's just hold off on that for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in these other ones that are more direct. So we can at least put in the 2% and the 5%, so 0.02, 0.05. And we don't know the overall percentage. It would be somewhere between 2 and 5, but we don't know what it is, and I don't think we're going to ever need to. Now, we're supposed to find how much she invested in B, so maybe we could let that be our X, so that's the amount in B. And then the only other thing, well, we've got this 8,000, but let me come back to that. Let's go ahead and put this guy in. So the total profit from the two funds is $1,310. So that would go in this last column, total 1,310. Okay, so now let's go back to this 8,000. So A was, so that's like an equals, 8,000 less than B. Less than means subtract, but flip it around, which is a common thing for people to mess up. So if I'm letting B be X, then A could be X minus 8,000. And then I could add these together and get some kind of something for the total amount, but I don't think I'm going to need that, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So now we're ready to multiply across. So the percent profit would be the amount that we're starting with, the base amount, times the percentage. So x minus 8,000 times 0.02. I'll just write it out instead of trying to multiply it here. So x minus 8,000. You could go ahead and distribute it if you want. And then 0.05x, 0.05x. And so just like the last one, we can write our equation as row 1 plus row 2 is equal to row 3. Because we're saying the profit from the Fund A plus the profit from Fund B should be the total profit. So 0.02 times x minus 8,000 plus 0.05x is equal to 1,310. And so now we just have to solve this thing. So let's distribute our 0.02. So 0.02x minus, I think this is going to be 160, plus 0.05x equals 1,310. Okay, so combining like terms, 0.07x minus 160 equals 1,310. And so now we're ready to start kind of moving things around and doing inverse operations. So let's add 160 to both sides. We'll get 0.07x equals, okay, so that would be 1,470. And then divide by 0.07 on both sides. Let's see what that is. 1470 divided by 0.07 is 21,000. So x equals 21,000. It's a comma. And this was the amount in Fund B, and that's what we're supposed to find. So this is indeed the answer we should put in.